Story time on how I found out my best friend was sleeping with my boyfriend while on the phone with me. Okay, so boom, let's jump right into it. So I was in what I later realized was a very bad relationship. But at the time, this dude was like a religion to me. I was crazy about him. My best friend at the time, sort of a mean girl, but I wasn't very good at making friends, so I put up with her being cruel to people. She would never do anything to hurt me, right? Anyways, that relationship started getting abusive, but I kept with it because, you know, I was young and stupid. I convinced myself that if I tried a little harder, everything would just fix itself. It didn't, and after a few months, we broke up. Sometime later, I was at a party and my best friend was a bit drunk. And that's when she told me, while laughing the entire time, how she and my ex were sleeping with each other literally 2 weeks after we started dating. And it gets worse. Like and follow for part 2. Part 2 on how I found out my best friend was sleeping with my boyfriend while on the phone with me. Okay, so boom, like I said, my relationship with my boyfriend became abusive, so we broke up. Fast forward a couple weeks and I was at a party with my best friend and she was a bit drunk. She told me while laughing the entire time how she and my ex were sleeping with each other literally 2 weeks after I started dating him. Then she goes in details about how they would do the nasty while he was talking to me on the phone. Mind you, she's laughing while saying this. She went into detail on all the ways and places they used to sneak around to sleep with each other. And this was the girl I would cry to when my ex would abuse me. She didn't seem to have any idea that what she was saying was literally messed up. She actually thought that I would find it funny too. Safe to say that that friendship ended. Be careful for fake friends out there, y'all. Story time on how dating a white boy landed me in jail. Okay, so boom, let's get right into it. So I'm a black woman and I'm 23 years old. My Caucasian boyfriend is 25 years old and we've been together for about 5 months. So this next information might seem mean, but it's necessary to understand this story. My Caucasian boyfriend was absolutely broke, jobless, carless, and living with his parents. But of course, he lied to me about all of that, and I didn't find out until he started staying at my apartment every single day. I would ask him, "Where's your car?" and he would say, "I got into an accident and it's in the shop." I would ask, "How come you're here and not working?" and he would say he works from home. I would even ask, "How come you're never at your place and we always hang out at my place?" He said my place is just more homey and clean because I'm a girl. Okay, so this is how the police gets involved. I came home from work and he was on the couch playing games doing nothing. And the first thing he says to me is, "I'm hungry, there's no food." Y'all know where this is going. Like for part 2. Part 2 on how dating a white boy landed me in jail. Okay, so boom, like I said, we established that my Caucasian boyfriend was absolutely broke, jobless, carless, and living with his parents. I came home from work and he was on a couch playing games doing nothing. And the first thing he says to me is, "I'm hungry, there's no food." Not a, "Hey baby, how was work baby, how was your day?" Nope, just "I'm hungry and there's no food." I get annoyed because I've been dealing with this for 3 months, so I tell him, "Go get some food or go make some food yourself." Then he said, "You keep talking like that and you gonna end up single." At this point, there was no holding back. I exploded. I yelled at him saying, "You literally lied about who you are. You don't work, you have no money, no car, and you tried to forcefully move yourself into my place without my permission. You're lucky you're not single. Matter of fact, you're single now, pack your stuff and get out." He gets mad and starts breaking everything. Like for part 3. Part 3 on how dating a white boy landed me in jail. Okay, so boom, like I said, I break up with my Caucasian boyfriend and he is not having it. He starts breaking everything. And he starts calling me all types of names that's mad disrespectful. He won't stop and I get scared, so I call the cops. I have a degree and a good paying job, so I live in a suburban area. That's how I met him in the first place. So in my area, the cops come in less than 5 minutes. When I opened the door for the cops, he was still breaking things and screaming at me. But the cops immediately handcuffed me and separated me from my ex. Then they asked me, why am I disturbing the peace at his home? Yeah, they assumed that this was his place and not mine. I was just a mad, crazy girlfriend. Surely a woman of color can't afford this place. I tried to explain that it was him who was invading and trashing my place, but they put me in jail for a day. Until the next day where they figured out that he was actually the problem in my home. Like for part 4. Part 4 on how dating a white boy landed me in jail. Okay, so boom, like I said, I spent a day in jail until they realized that he was the problem and that was my place. They took me back home and escorted him out of my place. Yeah, he literally stayed there. Mind you, they never handcuffed him, they only talked to him. They finally took him out my place, something they should have done the first time. And I never talked to my ex again, no matter how hard he's been trying. Wish me luck on my case because I'm coming for that department. Story time on how I told my mom her boyfriend was sexually assaulting me and she didn't believe me. Okay, so boom, let's jump right into it. So I was 14 at the time and my mom had a longtime boyfriend. My mom and this guy been together for about 3 years. Unfortunately, my dad is in jail, so I only talk to him over the phone when he calls. I always got creepy vibes from my mom boyfriend and I told her about this. I told her how he would put his hands a little bit too close to my booty, and when he would hug me, I can like feel his down there area. And when he would kiss me on the cheeks, every now and then he would always do a mistake and kiss me on my lips. She didn't believe me because she never seen anything. Well, one day he took it extremely too far. My mom was at work and I was alone with her boyfriend. I always stay in my room away from him because again, he's creepy, but this night it didn't stop him from coming into my room and violating me. Like for part 2. Part 2 on how I told my mom her boyfriend was sexually assaulting me and she didn't believe me. Okay, so boom, like I said, her boyfriend came into my room and violated me. I tried to run away, but he pinned me on the bed and he started kissing me on my neck. Then he snatched my shirt off and my breast was exposed. At that moment, my phone started ringing. The ring distracted my mom's boyfriend, and at that moment, I took my phone and I ran out the house. Yes, I ran out the house with my breast exposed. By the grace of God, it was my dad calling from jail. I missed his call, so I had to wait till he called me back, so in the meantime, I called my mom. I told my mom everything and she told me shut up. She hung up the phone and did nothing. She even called me a liar. I ran to my best friend's house with my breast exposed and her parents took me in. Eventually, my dad called me back and he saved my life. Like for part 3. Part 3 on how I told my mom her boyfriend was sexually assaulting me and she didn't believe me. Okay, so boom, like I said, after my mom didn't believe me, I ran to my best friend's house with my breast exposed and her parents took me in. I waited for my dad to call me back from jail and he eventually did. I answered the phone and I cried telling him everything of what just happened. My dad from jail became my hero. He sent a lot of his friends to my mom's house to handle that guy. Of course, we pressed charges and he's going to be serving time in jail. All my dad's friends helped me pack and they all brought me to my dad's mom's house. My mom came home to an empty house and my dad's mother has been granted custody of me. My mom was horrible. I hated living with her. Her boyfriend was physically abusive while she was verbally abusive. She didn't believe me and that hurt, but my dad believed me and saved my life. Can't wait to see him in a year. Story time on how I sold my farts in a jar and made big money. Okay, so boom, let's get right into it. So I'm extremely broke. And because I'm broke, I did what many people would do and went to Google. I looked up ways to make money when you're dead broke as a woman. Dancers came up and also fans only and even selling my intimates. But I served the Lord, so I didn't want to do anything involving my body in a sexual way. No judgment, by the way, just not for me based on my beliefs. Well, anyways, I stumbled across a page of a woman. I don't know if she prefers her identity to be hidden, so let's just call her Hannah Montana. Well, Hannah Montana explained how she made 70K selling her farts, and it immediately 1 shocked me and 2 piqued my interest. Now this was something I could do. I had to start my fart journey. Like for part 2. Part 2 on how I sold my farts in a jar and made big money. Okay, so boom, like I said, I stumbled across a page of a woman, and I don't know if she wants her identity to be hidden, so let's call her Hannah Montana. Well, Hannah Montana explained how she made 70K selling her farts. It immediately 1 shocked me and 2 piqued my interest. This was something I could do. Contrary to popular belief, there is a market out there for farts online. Believe it or not, people out there buy farts in many forms, varying from jars to lollipops that have been farted on by fart stars. So I quickly educated myself on how to provide this product, and I grew my audience pretty fast. Now I eat a lot of egg boils and fart for a living. I know you're jealous. This is the true story of the Nutcracker. We've all heard of this story. Some might have even gone to see it live, but the true story is very horrifying. It starts with a young girl named Marie. She receives a nutcracker for Christmas, which her brother breaks trying to crack a particularly large nut. She patches the doll up with some ribbon from her dress until her clockmaker godfather can properly fix it up. That night, while everyone's asleep, Marie sneaks back downstairs to be with the nutcracker. Nutcracker. But as the clock strikes midnight, things go from a mildly creepy doll obsession to a full-blown horror movie. Rats pile up into the house from nowhere, led by the 7-headed Mouse King. Yeah, a mouse with 7 heads. Then Marie herself is shrunken into a mouse size. It gets crazier. Like for part 2. This is the true story of the Nutcracker part 2. Okay, so boom, like I said, Marie herself shrunk into a mouse's size after rats piled up everywhere, led by a 7-headed Mouse King. But lucky for Marie, the other dolls, which were soldiers, sprang to life and started battling the rats. And the soldiers are led by none other than the Nutcracker. It doesn't go too well for the dolls until Marie takes off her slipper and chucks it at the Mouse King, distracting him long enough for the Nutcracker to kill him. Marie passed out, and when she wakes up normal sized, the room is a complete mess. And there are 7 tiny crowns scattered around her. Years later, Marie professes her love for the Nutcracker and that night finds herself doll size again. But this time it's permanent and she spends the rest of her life living with the Nutcracker. Story time on how my mom was jealous of my beauty and I ended up bald because of it. Okay, so boom, let's get right into it. I love my mom so much, but unfortunately, my mom has some insecurities that's pushing us apart. Ever since I was a little girl, everyone said I was so pretty and I should act or model. It always made me happy, and at first it seemed like my mom was happy too. But something took a turn as I got older and started developing. It's as if my mother took me more so as competition. I'm 16 now and she gets annoyed every time I'm complimented, even when it's by my own dad who is no longer with her. But my mom jealousy went too far when she started purposely attempting to make me unattractive, starting by cutting off all my hair. I cried, but I couldn't do anything to stop her. I have bad acne that I'm controlling with my skincare regimen, but my mom stopped buying it for me now. Now I'm bald with acne. It gets worse, like for part 2. Story time on how my mom was jealous of my beauty and I ended up bald, part 2. Okay, so boom, like I said, my mom was so jealous of me, she cut my hair and I was bald. She also stopped buying my skincare treatments, so I broke out and got acne. But worst of all, my mom took all, and when I say all, she took all my cute clothes and donated them. I cried and begged my mom not to, and she said that it's for a good cause. I screamed at her saying, I know what you're doing, you're just jealous and trying to make me look ugly. She told me I didn't know what I was talking about. Then she grounded me. I told my dad what my mom was doing and he screamed at her for me, calling her sick in the head. I started living with my dad and grew my hair back and fixed my skin, and I'm back to wearing cute clothes thanks to my dad. I see my mom from time to time, but I gotta love her from a distance. Part 2 on how my parents sold me for a cow and goat. Okay, so boom, like I said, my parents and the old man came into a conclusion on how much I was worth. They settled at 8 cows and 6 goats. Then I was married off against my will to become this man's 8th wife. I cried and told my parents please no, but they told me that I should be grateful because I was still young and desirable. And I cost the most right now, which is making them grow a large herd. So when my parents were telling me I was going to be the one to help them, they never meant that I was taking over the farm. They were speaking about literally selling me. I was the youngest out of all the wives, so I got the most attention from my now husband. All of the other wives were like 16 and 20, so it's not like they were old or anything. And now at 14, I'm currently pregnant, expecting my first child, and I'll make sure my baby is never sold. Story time on how my parents sold me for a cow and goat. Okay, so boom, we jumping right into this one. So I'm an only child and my parents are farmers. My parents would always tell me how they were going to expand their herd and that I would be the one to help them. I never understood how though. I assumed that they were going to teach me how everything works and I'll eventually take over like a family business. But boy, was I wrong. On my 13th birthday, I was excited because I was going to the village to celebrate. Or so I thought. My parents actually brought me to an elderly man who I never met. The old man then examined me and smiled and gave my parents a thumbs up. Then they started debating on how much cows and goats I'm worth. And I just stood there completely confused as to what was going on. After my parents and the old man were done going back and forth about cows and goats, they came into a conclusion. Like for part 2.